What's up, everybody? Anthony Carboni back on the floor, E3 2015, joined now by Nick Sutner from Developer Relations at Sony.
Howdy.
To talk about a game that I think kind of came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of people. A lot of people have been talking about it. It's a Project Morpheus title called Super Hypercube.
Super Hypercube.
So this is crazy. So tell me about how you guys came to find this.
Yeah, so this is developed by the Kokoromi Collective, being published by Polytron. It's really sort of interesting. I mean, you'll see a bit here from the teaser and some of the quick sort of gameplay flashes. But you know, hopefully you got a chance to see it on the floor here at E3. Really interesting sort of puzzle arcade first-person experience that works really well in VR. I guess we should talk about the game a little, just at a high level. Basically, a little bit of Tetris. It's moving shapes sort of towards a wall and like turning to fit them in the hole. But that's just sort of the very surface setting. Very gorgeous aesthetic. Really interesting design. It starts to ramp up over the time. The walls start to rotate.
What I think I love about this is, because it is a simple concept, because it is something like, okay, you've got this cube, and it turns into a more complex shape as you go, and you've got to rotate it and fit it into these planes. It's the simplest concept in the world. But it's such a great way to get oriented and really experience VR, and really experience what it's like to kind of duck around and learn what it's like in VR.
And it's really important for the gameplay because you need to look around the shape to see the wall, and it's actually really interesting building that as a key design element that relies on VR. And this is going to be a Morpheus launch title, debuting on Morpheus. It's really interesting too because it really it puts you in that place at the same time you're in this very psychedelic world, but it's like the sense of presence is great, and you're just moving a little bit while you're playing and navigating this cube or different like Tetris pieces, or it gets larger and more unwieldy, and the game is actually sort of a bit aware of how you're playing and what you're doing as well, and you get more points, for instance, for like turning it at the last second before you go through the walls.
You can do things like speed drops, you can do things, it gives you bonus points for doing things like looking at the shape and rotating it in the least number of rotations you possibly can.
Right.
It'll give you, so you're kind of thinking about spatial relationships and how these shapes actually look in 3D, and you can kind of cheat, but it's not cheating, it's using VR to kind of poke around your shape before you rotate to figure that out.
Yeah.
And what I like is the easy comparison for this game is Tetris, right? Because visually, we're looking at like a tetromino.
With some Japanese game show.
But the other great comparison to Tetris that I think, or I felt when I was playing it, is when Tetris came out for the Game Boy, I was able to hand anyone a Game Boy, whether they had played video games or not, and they were interested in it, and they figured it out, and it didn't overwhelm them, and they got into a groove, and they loved it and understood it instantly. And I think this is kind of that for VR.
I mean, it's really intuitive. It's back to like the putting the pegs in the holes like when you were a kid, and only it's building on that, and it's still really challenging and interesting, but with this gorgeous aesthetic as well. And the history of the game is really interesting too. I mean, you first saw it. We were just talking about, I think.
Yeah, 2008. 2008. Kokoromi, the kind of artist and developer collective that makes this, they were doing these shows called Gamma every year. And every year Gamma had a different theme. And there was, in 2008, they did Gamma 3D, where it was a bunch of games that were made for red-blue 3D glasses.
Right.
But they made these red-blue 3D glasses that also had some early head tracking on them. And so you could kind of, it was similar, but it was very different to what it was now. It was like a black and white game. You could kind of peek around a little bit, but not to the level you could. This, I think, is such a great kind of building on that, because like if you look at this part right here, you're looking at these planes as they come up, and they look totally flat, and sometimes they match your shape.
Right.
But by peeking around, you get that perspective.
Right. And it's actually, I don't know if you turned around while you were playing, you can actually sort of look back down this tunnel you're in.
Yeah, you go like racing through one of these planes, and you turn around and you're like, I beat you.
Right.
I got through you.
And it's such a cool feeling, too, when you pop through the wall, and you're like, pop, and then you move on. And then once in a while, you'll sort of advance to the next style, sort of, which is what you're seeing here, the next sort of level. And you're playing in one long go, but it's advancing, and the world's changing around you. Really cool. And so we actually, we sent some Morpheus like dev kits to this team a while ago, months ago, and for this pretty experimental game. It was a really cool idea. And then a couple months ago, before E3, they showed up. They were like, "Here's the build on Morpheus," and it's come such a long way, and it was gorgeous. And we were like, "We really need to show this. This is one of the coolest things we've seen in VR. Period." And it's going to be a rad launch game.
It's amazing. Obviously, we're looking forward to a lot more information about Super Hypercube, and of course, Morpheus launch and release dates will be coming in the future.
Yep.
Do we have any sort of general target for Morpheus right now, or?
I think first half of next year.
First half of next year. And where can they keep up with sort of the development of Super Hypercube?
I believe if you look for Kokoromi on Twitter, that'd be a good place. Otherwise, the PlayStation.Blog, there's a post that that they wrote up yesterday.
Yeah, this is a great post. You guys should check out the PlayStation.Blog and kind of see their inspirations in terms of like the artists and the aesthetics and the games that they love that kind of made this happen. So thank you so much, Nick, for coming and showing this off.
Thanks, Anthony.
Super Hypercube looks absolutely amazing.
PlayStation